Welcome to the Journey Principles, where we show you how to go from stuck to unstoppable with life strategies that work. Now, here's your host and creator of the Transform You framework, Stephen Scoggins.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Journey Principles with Stephen Scoggins and my buddy Connor Kraft, Director of Connections. We're happy you're back. We are happy to be back on the air with you guys. We had an amazing trip down to Florida and whatnot, and we've got a lot of ground to cover. Connor was still peppering me with questions. We're actually kind of excited. We have a new piece of content that's kind of goofy. It's just there if you need it at some point in time, which is called Car Rides with Connor. Because what actually happens is any time we drive somewhere to a live event or something like that, Connor peppers me with questions the entire time. So I told him, I said, hey, look, this time, turn the GoPro on.
Yeah, so at some point we will be releasing these hidden episodes of Car Rides with Connor. I think we'll keep them secret for a little bit, and then we'll release them.
You know what you
enough.
ought to do real fast before we jump into today's content? You ought to throw on your special takeaway from Florida just for a second.
My glasses?
Yeah, show everybody your glasses.
Dude, guys.
All right, and so for you guys who can't see his pimped out glasses, yeah, you look better than Bieber, man. You got it going.
I don't know. I think he beats me just a little bit.
I heard he just surpassed Elvis.
For what?
And billion records sold or something crazy like that.
That kid's talented.
Yeah, you're way too far away from the microphone. They can't hear you.
They can hear me. You guys can hear me. It's okay.
Can you hear us now?
All right, so we need to get into content.
So whatever.
What are we?
I'm on here to have fun. He's here to get into serious business all the time. All right, what's today's episode? What are we doing?
Earlier this week, was on the last podcast. It was our first podcast. We covered Life Mastery 101, which basically we kind of just talked about what life mastery is and all that stuff.
Well, what it is, what it's not, why it's important.
Exactly. We laid out the three things that we've determined as a company, basically, the three things that people need to do if they want to actually achieve
like immediate
life mastery.
action.
Immediate action.
Focus.
There's three real bucket areas.
Yep.
So just to recap, those three things that you need to do in order to really transform your life are: you need to discover what drives you, you have to map out a life you love, and then you have to build better relationships. And if you can do those three things, then, easy enough, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's awareness, right? It's creating a plan.
Right.
And it's getting the relationships you need.
Right.
Like
absolutely.
Super bucketed, right?
So as far as today and what we're going to talk about, I'm really excited about this topic. It's the 7 stages.
You ought to be. You peppered me with it for 6
mastery.
months.
So guys, just a little background here. So obviously he's my personal mentor, and I ask him just a bazillion questions. I mean, if you haven't seen the Car Rides with Connor, I guess that won't be out yet at the time of this, but you will see it.
Yeah, you
just
can
kind
find
of
you'll
our
be able
dynamic.
to find it on YouTube.
I ask him so many questions about what it takes to be successful. It's not even funny.
Oh, and not just successful. Life, love,
sure,
finance,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And so one of the biggest things I wondered for a long time, though, I was like, man, how far do I have to go? Like, where am I at in the process? Like, am I, and somewhat I was looking for affirmation, but I was like, am I at the very beginning, or like, am I close to the end? Am I in the middle? Like, what is it? How far do I have to go to get to this life mastery thing? And you shared a piece of content with me that I loved, which was basically the 7 stages of life mastery.
My
and
wife
it takes
just texted me.
all the way, Karen, love her.
I do too.
It takes you all the way from the time that you actually decide, okay, I'm going to commit to life mastery, all the way through all the stages, the 7 stages that are necessary for you to actually end up being what you would consider to be a master.
Because I actually created that piece of content just to ask your question. Or not ask your question, but answer your question.
Good.
That's why I created the 7 stages.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate that. I love that piece of content.
It's not a question that you're not the only one to ever ask the question, but you're the only one that that really was seeking it so much, and you spent so much time going after it that I was like, look, let me sit down and let me just kind of review my life, try to really get a hold of kind of where I came from, how I got to where I'm at. And then the stages or the levels of breakthrough. In some cases, some people call them life gates, or just they're pivot moments in life where everything changes basically everything changes. Nothing's the same, right? So I went back and dug into that. Now, let me knock these out really fast for you, real fast. So stage 1 is the call to transformation. That's very quickly, it's when that you feel like it's time to change. You have an instinctual notion that there's something missing, there's something confusing, and there's something more, right? That, by definition, is the call to transformation. But even quicker than that, there's a stage where you actually answer the call, or an awareness phase.
So is that the first stage or the?
Yeah, so the first stage is called a transformation.
Call to transformation.
Step 2 is it could either look at it as answer the call or a stage of awareness.
Okay.
Right? Step 3 is learns a new way and or learning specifically. Right. So you're learning a new technique, a new skill, a new skill set. Mm-hmm. There's the growth phase. There's the stage of you actually growing into that that new method of learning.
So the
or
growing
skills.
phase is kind of when you start to implement the things you've been learning.
Yeah, it's the beginning phase of the implementation thing. It's we've talked about this 1,000 times. We probably should actually have a T-shirt that says just do the push-ups.
For sure.
Yeah. So I mean, it's the moment when, okay, someone's taught you how to do a push-up. Now you actually
are doing them consistently and
Exactly.
practicing that and building the habit.
Exactly.
Got it.
You know, the next stage is going to be the 5th stage, which is maturity. It's when you actually become mature. In other words, it's becoming more and more like second nature. You know, if we're using that chest analogy again, it's all of a sudden your chest is starting to build up because you've been consistent. You've been focused.
Can do more push-ups than you've
Exactly.
ever been able to do, and the previous amount of push-ups
and unbutton your shirt a little lower. You know,
right? Yeah. Is that a jab at my shirt?
No, dude.
My shirt's
I
too
wish
low.
I could-
I'm gonna
wish-
unbutton another.
Hey, easy now. This is going on YouTube.
Okay.
No, dude, you're awesome. Yeah, I'm just like picking at you. You can poke at me if you want to, anytime.
Nah.
So anyway, emergence. Step
Emergence.
6,
Okay.
emergence. All right, so emergence is one of my favorite because that's the moment in which freedom and possibilities become real rather than like an intangible dream, right? Because you've done all these different steps. You dug in so far, right? You've done the work. You've gotten mature in it. And then you're so secure in it that now you have a new level of confidence. And that new level of confidence is what propels you to the next stage, which is the area of mastery. So number 7 is mastery.
Okay.
All right. So step 1, call to transformation. Step 2, answers the call or the awareness phase, depending on how we want to position it. It's essentially you're becoming self-aware.
Got it.
Learns a new way or learning. Growth, meaning you're growing. You're now taking what you've learned. You're now starting to apply it, starting to use it, starting to grow. Maturity is when, okay, it's now becoming like second nature, that kind of thing. Step 6, emergence, is when it's not only second nature, it's part of who you are, and it's part of actually bringing your dreams into reality. And stage 7 is my ultimate favorite stage, which is the level of mastery, because at step 7, you get to start giving back.
That's awesome, man.
Yeah.
So
scale
are
of 1
you
to 10,
not
we're-
allowed to give back on the journey along the way?
Well, it's not that you're not allowed to give back on the journey along the way. What I find that happens is a lot of people get derailed because they're making progress. Let's say they're getting through step 1, step 2, step 3, and they're moving, making progress, and then they can get derailed because they see they're having traction. They have a lot going for them. Things are happening. Things are, that their life is starting to shape up, and then they notice their buddy or their girlfriend or their parent or whatever who's struggling, and they go try to rescue them really before they're qualified or really before they have the skill set to do so.
Do you think a lot of people do that?
Oh yeah,
Wow.
for sure. In fact, I've got I did this on a dry erase board. Well, I say dry erase board, our lit dry erase board. In fact, if you want to get a complete breakdown of this particular piece of content, the 7 stages of life mastery, go ahead and take the time to go to YouTube if you're not already there. Go to our whiteboard lessons.
Yes.
And I dissect this for 15 or 20 minutes.
Yeah, if you just go to YouTube, if you don't know how to find us, you can just literally go into the search in YouTube and search for Journey Principles or Stephen Scoggins. You should find our channel. It's called Journey Principles with Stephen Scoggins.
Yep.
And then if you go to our channel, there
You'll
are
see
different
Connor too.
sections for all this different content. And we have whiteboard lessons. We have Life Mastery Q&A. We have
Yep.
all kinds of cool stuff.
Yep.
So,
But what I was going with that is, before I got sidetracked with the YouTube channel, it's important, don't get me wrong. Stage 1, for example, over 67% of the people never actually take the time to answer the call. In other words,
Right.
they have this call, they know something's missing, they know something's confusing, they know there's more, they have no idea how to get there, so they never actually start.
They never start even the process of self-awareness, which is really like
Exactly.
the first, that's even before you're learning.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, that's why we say in the last podcast episode we were talking hardcore about the 3 things you got to do like today, like get to know, like become very self-aware, which is understand what drives you, motivates you, what makes it have a passion-filled life kind of thing, creating the plan, and then you do the relationships, right? You don't do the relationships before the plan because
Right.
if you don't have a plan, you don't know what kind of relationships you need.
That sounds about right.
So all of that dives into the second stage that we're talking about, which is the awareness phase, right?
Got it.
You've got to become completely self-aware. And I have done this so many times. I have taken an audience people who think they're completely self-aware, brought them on stage, asked them 4 questions, and they realize, okay, so I'm like a level 5 out of 10 here.
Oh, man.
Right? So there's lots of different ways to become self-aware. There's a personality tools, obviously, that we have that we can give for free to people. We got free ebooks and stuff like that. But more than that, there are discovering your strengths, your struggles, your blind spots, what you do well, what do you yearn for, what are the top 5 things you would do for free if you could, basically to become self-aware, there's a lot of question asking and a lot of reflective answering, right? And over time, you become more and more self-aware. So self-awareness in many ways is a continual process. But for the sake of this, when you answer that call to transformation and you're leaning into the awareness phase, you're actually leaning specifically into what are my strengths, what are my struggles, what are my blind spots, right? Because until you answer those three things, it makes it really hard to actually go to the next phase, which is the learning phase. And the reason it makes it hard is because you don't know what you're looking to learn.
So you have to understand who you are at your core, where you want to go, and all that stuff that's involved with the awareness phase before you can even really know where to go in terms of learning.
Yeah.
Is that why a lot of people just kind of, when they try to learn or do personal development, they just study everything?
Well, they try to study everything, and they have analysis paralysis.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
They don't take the time to take what they're learning and actually pull it apart for their authentic self. Meaning, you, for example, you're a very driven young man. Right? I see so much of myself in you, which makes it that much more fun to like work with you and talk with you and be there when you've got questions. But you have what's known as a high D type personality. You're a very driven, entrepreneur minded, influential kind of influence kind of person. You may need to learn how to slow down and look at details, or you may need to learn how to position how you are going to deal with defense mechanisms. So if someone comes at you, do you debate all day? Or are you looking for a solution? Yeah, right. I said the word debate because this dude can debate.
That's my thing. Yeah.
Right? Where if take someone like our editor who works for Journey Principles, who's very detail-minded, right? She's going to need to learn a new skill set to lean her more towards the driven side. Not that she's not passionate, not that she doesn't have it going on, and not that she doesn't know what she's doing.
It's a spectrum. I mean,
it's a spectrum.
A lot of the things that we teach, we focus on the DISC personality styles.
Well, DISC, values and attributes.
Right, exactly. Yep. We actually have if you want to get self-aware, I think one of the best ways you can start.
Yeah, 80 pages on you.
yeah, for sure. So we have this really, really great resource. We usually charge money for it, like on our website. If you go to our website.
I'm not going to do that for a while.
This thing is like a 90-page personality.
It's actually 80, don't exaggerate.
It's really, 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 really crazy, guys. It's amazing.
Yeah.
This document, if I can call it a document, it's more of a book, really gave me more information on myself than any test I had ever taken before. And for right now, we're actually giving away that for free. So if you go to our website, journeyprinciples.com, and you go click on resources, or you can just go to journeyprinciples.com/resources, you should see 3 ebooks. If you download the one that says Discover What Drives You, there's a link inside of that ebook, which also gives a lot of great self-awareness
it's designed to explain what they're reading.
Exactly. So those 2 resources in conjunction with each other, if you download that Discover What Drives You, inside of that you can actually access this test for free, which is worth well over $100.
Yeah, and you guys are more than welcome to share it with your friends. I mean, you can share the link or whatever, or download the ebook, whatever it takes to help you guys succeed. The cool thing about becoming self-aware specifically is, in that specific resource, you understand how you like to be communicated with, why things frustrate you, like what things come at you. For example, one of the things I hear all the time is, why did I do that? Like you get mad at yourself
because you keep making the same mistake over and over and over again. You can't understand why you work this way.
Exactly. So that particular resource can actually help you answer that.
Yeah, for sure. I agree.
Until you get self-aware, or at least get some basic self-awareness in place. And please, if you think you're self-aware, I promise you, there's a whole nother level of discovering self-awareness that you could take it to a whole new level.
This document, I mean, it's free, guys. Seriously, go take the test. I don't even know what you're doing if you're not taking the test. I really recommend it.
That'll at least tell you what you need to focus on. Right?
Absolutely.
If you don't know what your blind spots are, how are you going to learn how to overcome them?
Yeah, it totally makes sense. So in the interest of time, let's go to the third step.
I know. I like to talk.
I know.
I can't help it.
So the third step is learning. So once you become self-aware, you have a better understanding of who you are, and that'll kind of help you decide where you're going and what you need to learn.
Yep.
Then you just go through the process of learning. So would that include watching a bunch of our content?
Well, yeah. I mean, we clearly have a ton of content that's going to be helpful for people, and I want people to digest and look over and go through as much as they want, for sure. But when we look at learning, the interesting thing about learning and going into the next phase, even growth, is that's about the time where you finally kind of realize who needs to be guiding you. Meaning, who's the guy that's going to come alongside of you to empower you, encourage you, hold you accountable?
Like for me, it was at the end of my learning phase that I met you, and then you took me into the growing phase because I was basically a bookworm, or I guess more of a video worm.
You had so much information, you didn't know what to apply.
I was watching all the influencers, like all these business influencers, all of the motivational speakers, Tony Robbins, all these guys, and they all have great information out there, but I was just overloading myself with information, and I wasn't really able to take action. I didn't feel like I was ready to take action.
The difficulty with most of those solutions are it's so 30,000 foot to 15,000 foot level.
Yeah.
It's not a lot of breakdown stuff.
But in order to get the breakdown, which is partially why we created this channel and everything we do is basically to provide more than just kind of the 30,000 foot view.
Yeah.
You have to keep coming back and really learning more.
Yep.
And you have to be able to dive in because by the nature of being down in the weeds, there's just so much information there that you need to be willing to take it step by step.
Yeah.
So learning and growing. So I guess the difference between learning and growing is the mentor?
Well, so learning is a couple things fold. So a couple different things. When it comes to learning, you're identifying what you need to learn.
Okay.
Right? You're discovering why you need to learn it, why it's important. And then historically, that's about when the guide shows up or you decide to partner with the guide, whether it's us through the channel or one-on-one coaching or whatever that is, that you finally get some help in doing that. And you want to get someone who actually understands where you are, probably has been there themselves, has already come out the other side, who can actually give you a roadblock. Now, I want to be very cautious when it comes to the growth side and the learning side, which are kind of, to me, they're kind of like merged together. They're connected,
right? And
they're connected through the guide. You got to be very careful about who you choose as your guide. So for example, if you have a financial burden, like you're trying to figure out, hey, I need to increase my income, okay? And that's your goal. What you decided you want to learn about is how to make more money. Nothing wrong with that, okay? We all got to supply our needs. There's no margin, there's no ministry, which Dave Ramsey says all the time, right? If I go and hire somebody who works for the mob, can they increase my income? Yes.
Yes.
Is that necessarily the best way to keep me out of trouble? Maybe not.
Yeah, I guess it doesn't keep you out of trouble.
Right. However,
but I hear they'll protect you.
I'm too skittish to even take that up. Not if you work for the mob. Hey, I bless you in Jesus' name. It's all good. But anyway, if you think about it, I want to choose the best mentor that can take me where I want to go with what I need to learn, but do so in a way that has character, integrity, passion, process. They can hold me accountable. Like I said, they're there to coach me to make myself better. When we first went to go relaunch parts of areas of our company in the content that we've got here, I hired a third-party consultant to say, hey, look, I need to make my writing clearer. Like I could pump out content all day long. I can write books. I mean, I like a lot of content.
You wrote like 30,000 words.
Because I'm always thinking. Like I'm always thinking.
2 weeks.
And I've always been obsessed with what it takes what does it take? I'm like obsessed with it to take someone who knows nothing about life, mastery, or anything like that, and turn them into, in some cases, and I'm using weird numbers, but a multimillionaire or a successful business owner,
super successful relationship,
or a super killer,
fitness,
awesome mom or dad, and
just
there's
the best version of them that they could possibly be.
Right. Well, you have to learn. You have to discover what you need to learn. You need to discover why you need to learn it, and then you need to partner with the person that can help you develop that. Right.
Got it. And now, what if you don't have access to someone like that?
Well, very simple. You just keep coming back here.
Okay, cool. So you say that digital, like following someone online and reading their books and listening to one
for
source,
sure.
one
I don't have
source.
the notes in front of me, but I got a good friend of mine named Doug Stewart. He did a YouTube TEDx talk called the 5.5 Mentors.
Yeah.
Right. One or two of the 5.5 mentors there has to do with digital. Like I forgot the term he uses, but it's essentially like I actually learn from time to time. I pop on YouTube 2-3 times a week myself, to learn about obviously things about faith that they're important to me. I've been heavily involved in trying to figure out how to make a successful YouTube channel because we want to bring excellence, right? So these are things I want to learn. Right. So that's one type of mentor. There are people out there that are influencers in a given niche that can actually help you win. Right. On top of that, there are face-to-face mentors. You met one of my mentors just recently down in Florida.
Oh, yeah.
With KC. I mean, KC is a rock star, and I can't wait till we actually publish his episode. He is a smart dude, right?
This guy knows more about nutrition than anybody I've ever met. I mean, some of the things he was teaching,
Yeah.
I had to be like, whoa, hang on, back it up.
Yeah.
Like I had to watch it over and over again because
I mean, and he's more successful financially than I am, which means I can learn something from him. Also, I can do it, and I can trust his what he's telling me, because, right? He's got character, he's got integrity. I walked into his house. I spent time with his family. He's clearly a good husband,
genuinely good guy.
or clearly a good dad. Clearly trying to do the right thing. Now, I'm sure he's like every other man. He messes up from time to time, right? I'm sure Monica doesn't let him off the hook every time, right? But
that's why he has her.
exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why I have Karen. She compliments me.
Hey, how are we doing on time? Just
Yeah, so we
curious.
got about 10 minutes left. So let's go ahead and knock out the next thing. So learning,
Growing.
right? Growth happens, but after learning, meet the mentor, learn what you need to do, start applying. So growth is
growth
applying.
is where learning meets application.
Exactly.
Perfect. Okay, awesome. And then what happens after you've been doing that for a while?
I mean, essentially, after you've been doing that, you really get to kind of go down the next pipeline, all right? Which is going to be maturity.
Maturity.
Right? So you become more mature, you're stable, you're beginning to develop a certain level of confidence. Like when I went to go start my first company, for example, I was very not confident, if anything. I was like, I need to eat, I need shelter. Step 1, step 2, I need to get out of debt. Step 3, step 4, oh crap, I've got people working for me now. What do I do?
So were you weren't even thinking about like millions of dollars?
Oh,
or
not
anything
even
like that?
close.
Wow.
Not even close.
You were just.
In fact, ironically, if you actually studied some of the most successful entrepreneurs of the 2000s, the 90s, and the 80s, almost all of them came from difficult upbringing. Les Brown, Oprah Winfrey, Tony Robbins, even to a degree.
Yeah.
I mean, all these influencers became massive influencers because they did this work that I'm going over today.
Right.
They followed the same exact 7-step process that I followed. and everything
Everyone
else.
wants to skip steps and go from step
And you
1 to
can't.
7.
Yeah.
That's what I tried to do for years. And guess what? I stayed at step 1. I wouldn't recommend that because you're just going to waste your time.
That's true.
It's better to just go one step at a time, be patient with it.
Yeah.
And now that I'm starting to do that, I'm seeing rapid progress.
Well, and
So-
I've seen it, and outside looking in from someone who's actually looking at you, right? I see tremendous maturity. You see what I'm saying?
So I'm getting there.
Yeah, I think I would put you in the maturity bucket.
What?
I would put you in the maturity bucket. I would
Well,
put
that's
you in the,
generous.
like, you may be in the bucket and climbing out of the bucket, but you're in the bucket, right?
Cool.
Which leads us to the next phase, which is emergence. Okay.
Emergence. So hey, one thing I really quickly want to tap onto on the maturity phase. So just to put it in a real world example that everyone can understand. So if learning is when you're going out and getting all the information, awareness obviously before learning is when you're understanding yourself. Then learning, you're going out and getting the information. Then you're going to apply the information, right?
Yep.
That's the what was it? The growing phase.
Yep.
After growing, when you've been applying for a long enough time, I think in the growing phase, it's very uncomfortable
It is.
to apply because you're not used to
I'm
it.
actually glad you said that because, early on I said 67% of the population never takes step 1.
Right.
By the time you get to the growth phase, you drop down in the single digits.
Wow.
And
That's
I give those exact numbers actually in the
Yeah, for
in the
sure.
YouTube
Go check out that
video.
YouTube video. So anyway, so with maturity, would you say that that's when you've been doing the push-ups for a while and
Yep.
now it's a habit?
Chest is getting
So now
bigger. You're not
confident,
thinking about it.
You're not having to worry about I gotta do these 5 habits today. Now it's like, hey, you've been doing it for 66 days to create
Yep.
a habit. You've been doing it for 3 years or whatever.
right.
You've reached a level
now it's-
where
now
you
it's
have
automatic.
unconscious competence. And you're good.
Unconscious competence, and you also develop confidence.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. So that's maturity. And
Yep.
then how do we
My
get from
favorite-
maturity to emergence?
My favorite's emergence. Emergence. One of the ways at which you'll know that you've achieved an emergence level is you and your mentor, for example, your guide, if you will be able to say, "There's not much more I can teach you."
Wow.
Right. So it's, at the end of the day, that's how you know you kind of achieve, and that could be any given area. But
So is when everyone looks at someone who has it together,
Yeah.
would you say that most of those people, like if you look at a Tony Robbins or someone like that, I mean, they're most of them are probably at the mastery phase by now. But like,
they better be,
I would hope
especially
so.
Tony.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure he's got it. But emergence, I would say that there's a lot of people who look at the people with emergence as well and say like, okay, they have the result.
Yeah.
Is emergence when you really start to see the fruit?
Well,
or the result. Of
you'll
your
start
labor?
to see fruit literally in the emergence and the maturity phase. You'll begin to see, but you'll reap a harvest in the emergence phase.
I see. So that's when when the overnight success happens,
Yeah,
quote unquote.
overnight
And I put air
Heineken.
quotes around that if you're not watching on YouTube.
Yeah.
Because, like everyone thinks, oh, I went from 0 to a millionaire
Yeah, it
in
doesn't work that
12
way.
months. If you did that, then you probably spent 5 years before that
Yeah.
struggling and learning.
Well, let me throw this out there. We still have some little bit of time left. one of the things I want to mention to you specifically, as we're talking about this and using you as a personal example, I'll know when you move from maturity to emergence when you stop asking me, am I doing the right thing? Am I still doing it? And like, you know what I'm saying? You'll stop
doubting myself.
Exactly.
Interesting.
That will begin to almost be eradicated
and I would
completely.
think that if I am in the maturity phase, and that was very generous of you to say, I think that I'm just on the cusp of it. Phase. I feel, because I still have that self-doubt though. And you described maturity as more of like you're starting to get confident and get that. I think that I'm very close. I'd say
he's in the maturity phase. He's at the early stages, but he is in the maturity phase.
If you say so, man. All right, cool. So
I'm outside looking in. I get to say so.
So emergence to mastery, just the last one. Just to touch on this real quick.
I want to finish with emergence real fast.
Sure.
Emergence is the moment where everything is so second nature that it automatically produces fruit without any level of focus.
That's emergence?
That's emergence.
Okay. Got it.
Mastery is when you've taken the next level, right? And that's when you're actually teaching what you've learned to someone else.
So once you become the master, you're no longer the apprentice, and you get to take on an apprentice.
Yeah, and I use Star Wars analogies all the time. You know that. I love Star Wars because it's the easiest one to explain. Now I could use, what's the one with Hogwarts? Whatever. Harry Potter, right? I could use that. I could use the Avengers. I know. Hey, look, that's your generation, you know. Got nothing but love for you.
Yeah,
right?
For sure.
But if you go back into what they call the canon, right? Yoda had a teacher.
Yeah.
Right? Yoda taught Obi-Wan, looks like from what I remember.
Obi-Wan, who taught Anakin, who then became evil by some
and then
fluke.
taught Luke, and then Luke and Leia taught Rey. You know what I'm saying?
Well, actually, technically, Yoda went directly to Luke. Anyway,
yeah.
There's always a master and an apprentice. And
he memorized all these movies. Yeah.
That's a cycle where essentially the apprentice will. There's actually a quote from the third Star Wars, which I love. It's like, or actually, no, it's not the third one. I think it's the fourth one. It's A New Hope. Yeah. Some of you are going to get mad at me for calling that the fourth one.
Yeah,
I know it's technically the first one.
By the way, I did make a complete screw up in one of the whiteboard lessons, and I asked our sponsors, Triad Studios, to fix it for us, and unfortunately, I forgot that one thing.
For sure. I was
going to have a pop-up say, I messed up. I'm sorry. I know it wasn't Luke's mom.
Yeah. Well, anyway, Vader, obviously, who's evil at this point, basically says to Obi-Wan, who's kind of old and frail, he says, the circle is now complete.
Yeah.
When I left you, I was but the learner, but now I am the master. And it was kind of, obviously he went evil.
And you need to do the whole pinky things.
That's Dr. Evil. That's a completely
different... but if you look at technically what was just said, it's like, anyway. You should have done like $1 billion. Anyway. Yeah, so mastery is the ultimate moment where you've mastered that specific area, and it may be 5 or 6 areas. Now keep in mind, when you're doing the seven stages of the life mastery, really it can be done in a couple different ways. First of all, it can be done through the course of 8 pillars of life, mastering each of the pillars.
We have a video on that as well. Please check out our YouTube channel. There's so much great content on there.
It'll be 5 days. It'll make life a whole lot easier for a lot of people.
5 days a week, guys.
All right. The next stage is actually the combined comparison, meaning all 8 pillars are now humming. Okay, now what am I missing? And you'll follow the same step and process. Here's what I want people to memorize, or not memorize. Remember, only 1% of the population hits mastery.
Wow.
Do you think it's any coincidence why they refer to certain groups of people as the top 1%?
That makes perfect sense.
Right?
They're the people who make it through all the steps.
Right?
So how do we, just a real quick final question, because I feel like...
Yeah, we got like 2 minutes left.
All right, 2 minutes. Actually, that's more than I thought. I thought we had like 10 seconds, and I was like,
He's always worried about running out of time.
I am. Okay, well, if we have 2 minutes... all right, so what do people need to do right now if they want to advance to the next stage and get to that next stage? What's the biggest thing that they can actually do today?
All right, step 1, accept the call to transformation. If you're watching this video or listening to this podcast, I'm calling you to transformation. I'm calling you to be the person you were always meant to be that you haven't discovered yet.
Decide that you're going to commit to it.
And I promise it's there.
Yeah.
I promise it's there. If you are frustrated or overwhelmed in any area of your life, I promise you there's a better way, and you can become everything you want to be.
And of course, by definition, 67% of people, a lot of you watching this haven't really accepted that call. Mm-hmm. The call isn't just when you literally decide, okay, I'd like to achieve life mastery. It's when you commit to the process and you actually make the decision. So the biggest thing that most of you can do is, if you've heard this podcast and you're like, yeah, I'm kind of interested in this process. I really, really, really want to achieve life mastery. Commit to the process. Don't try to skip steps. Go from wherever you think you are and identify where you think you are based on what we've discussed today, and then basically use that to identify your next step, and then you know what your next step is.
Absolutely. And keep in mind, so you may be thinking, hey, I've got my life figured out, all that kind of stuff. Well, if you're already at the mastery level, you should be in the top 1%. first of all.
Oh, yeah.
Second of all, if you are at the mastery level and you're not helping people, you're leaving stuff on the table.
Well, there's always another hill to conquer.
That's right.
You know, like even let's say that you get to mastery in your relationships. This is another thing. Is like mastery doesn't have to be all encompassing.
Yeah, I mean, I'm learning new stuff now to master that.
Like there are areas of my life where I, of course, like Steven said, am in the maturity phase, but there are other areas of my life where I'm in the baby phase. Like, and I'm not afraid to admit that. So it's always an ongoing journey. So since we only have like literally 30 seconds left here, where can they find us?
Yeah, journeyprinciples.com for website, free resources, all that kind of stuff to find this stuff to get self-aware. They can find us on YouTube.
Absolutely.
You guys can find me on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're pretty much all over the place. It's always Steven Scoggins or Steven_Scoggin.
Absolutely. And if you guys have any kind of life mastery questions, we actually do a weekly Q&A
Those are actually
video
really
now.
fun. I love these
They
things.
are.
Yeah.
So basically any life mastery question from how do you overcome overwhelm, which
anything.
we've already done that one, but you can also do very specific things like how to deal with a toxic spouse or, basically any life mastery question that you have, send them in to questions@journeyprinciples.com. You can also just comment your questions at the bottom of any of our YouTube videos.
That's right.
I don't care if it's this one, even though it's a podcast. Just send us your questions any way you can. You can also send in via email videos.
Yeah, I'd love to have iPhone videos, actually.
If you're comfortable with your
actually
face
connect.
being, broadcast in front of what we hope will eventually be millions of people. We're still bootstrapping this, but we would love to be able to share that. So absolutely, guys.
Obviously, the cool thing about the Q&A things, if we actually use your question on air and answer your question on air, we'll send you a little free gift just for thank
absolutely free gift. So I guess we'll have to figure out a way to contact them. So if you guys send us,
questions@journeyprinciples.com. Send your videos there. Send your questions there.
it's probably best thing if you send them via that way. Otherwise, if it's a comment, it's gonna be hard for us to reach
we gave
you.
way too much stuff. So journeyprinciples.com, free resources. If you got a question, whether it be comments or whatever, you can drop those in the comment boxes. We prefer you to send your questions through questions@journeyprinciples.com so we can not only answer that, so we can also follow up with you when we use your stuff on air to send you a free gift.
Absolutely. That's it. So that does it for the second episode of the Journey Principles podcast.
Season 1.
The 7 stages of life mastery. Next week, we're going to be covering how to cure overwhelm and finally make progress. I'm excited for that one.
It's going to be awesome.
Big
All right,
time.
guys, have a fantastic week. You can do this. Don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. Keep it moving forward, and we'll see you on the next Journey Principles. Take care. I'll see you in the next video. And please, if you don't mind and you enjoyed the life mastery content we're building, consider hitting the subscribe button and also hitting the bell so you'll be the first to get notified anytime we release new content.